Feed the cats. How did I ever get into this feed the cats mindset? Well, two of my favorite coaches, my football coach on the left, Roger Wilcox, my college basketball coach on the right, Harley Nosher, two spectacular men, two great guys, lots of success, lifelong coaches. But the guy on the left, I'd had surgery on my shoulder my senior year. I was on two school record relay teams the year before, and he let me on the 4x4 my senior year, even though my first meet was in early May. And, I ran well. And I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to get back on that 4x1, coach. He says, well, I'm not doing that to our 4x1 team. I said, I'm the fastest guy of the four. I think you should put me on. He said, I'm not. No, they've been doing it all year. I'm not going to break that team up. And I said some choice words to him, and I think he repeated them back to me. And to this day, I'm like, God, you gotta run your best guys. I don't care if you like them or there's nobody. You're not owed anything to anybody. I think you put And then the guy on the right did the same thing. He admitted to me that as a sophomore at Knox College, I was I thought I was the seventh best guy on the team. He said I was probably the eighth best, but he thought that I would never be happy in a off the bench, limited time role, that I was a little too competitive, and I'm probably guilty as charged. But he kept 15 guys and did not keep me. He said I could play JV another year, and I said screw that. And I told him that I said I'm going to be a coach someday, and on my team will be the best guys. Not the guys that are the best cheerleaders, not the best support people. We are going to play to win the game. And so both these guys, a lot of people think Feed the Cats is soft, and I think Feed the Cats is all about winning. But I didn't win early. At the age of 23, I was the youngest head basketball coach in the state of Illinois. Even though we were at a small school, we were just barely in the big school division. And my team went 5-20. Now, that was a better record than the year before. The guy the year before went 0-25. So yeah, we could say we made some improvement, but I was not cursed as a young coach with winning early. I feel so sorry for coaches that win early in their career, because they don't learn. They think that they already got it figured out. And I read the other day that we spend into our 20s getting all the right answers and the rest of our life defending them. I never had to do that. Now, I thought I knew what I was doing, but when you go 5-20, I don't care why. No, we weren't any good. That's the reason why. We had bad players. But man, did I start working. And the next year wasn't much better. We won 10 with this group, and we had a little more talent here, but we lost like every close game that we lost. And but at least we knew that that the talent was starting to grow. We had 4 sophomores on this team, and so I really thought we were on the right track. And after 2 losing seasons, winning 5 games and then 10, I really kind of became like Bobby Knight. I doubled everything. I got more demanding. I became more of a taskmaster. I was kind of like the hippie coach, in the first couple of years of my head coaching time, and then I became like the mean guy. The mean guy. So we made practices really, really hard. And it was a crazy thing what happened. Those 4 sophomores I thought would be great players, they decided to go to a after school workouts instead of being on my basketball team the next year. And they were doing kind of like a BFS type thing where they would lift, and then they would do sprints, and they would test vertical jump and all that kind of stuff. And I remember telling my good friend that ran the program. I said, "You're making it way too fun. I mean, there should never be people quitting basketball in order to do workouts. We need to make the workouts miserable so the kids will play basketball." And I think back, I mean, that's as far from being feed the cats as you can possibly be. That work should not be fun. And here I was pontificating to a guy that was doing it right, that they should be out running 5 miles and like doing miserable stuff so that my miserable stuff would seem more palatable. I've come a long way. Now that Malcolm Gladwell in the book Outliers said that all elite people, like at the top of their profession, put 10,000 hours into what they did. And too many people think that it's all about that 10,000 hours of hard work that creates excellence. But the Beatles had worked a lot more than 10,000 hours. They actually played 1,200 concerts before they had their first hit song. 1,200 concerts. And the thing that I want to say here is that it was not like we need to keep grinding, guys. Hey, Paul, we need to keep grinding. Hey, Ringo, we need to keep grinding. We need to put in these 10,000 hours of hard work. Hell no. They put in 5 years of work that they loved. So it wasn't work. They played. They enjoyed it. Now, sometimes the concerts got long. It's hard to wake up in the morning. It's hard to travel to a new place. But basically, they were just in Hamburg, Germany, having fun. But by having fun, that 10,000 hours didn't seem all that bad. And so when you look back at the dumb stuff that I believed compared to what I know now, we have to gamify training. We have to make practice the best part of a kid's day. Chad Licatos ran for me 30 years ago, and I was a taskmaster as a track coach. Then he had permanently sore shins. He was never happy one moment ever as a track athlete. Maybe he was a little bit happy when we won a third place trophy in 1991. He was a little bit happy when he placed second in the state in the 400 meters, and another year placed third. I think he was a little bit happy when he ran a 48-2 split anchor in a 4x4. But basically, it was misery. And I thought the misery was all worth it back then. It's not. But what's so cool about Chad is that he was the first guy that took my Feed the Cats ideas and plugged it into a program. And, Chad's won like 5 state championships now. He coaches at Edwardsville. Picture of him here. My son Alec is Chad's assistant, hurdle coach, sprint coach. And they are the best track program in the state of Illinois. And they're a Feed the Cat school, which really gave me confidence that my ideas were powerful. That it wasn't just my charisma or something like that, or maybe being lucky that I had good talent or something, that my ideas actually could work, because this guy's been more successful than I've been. And since then, of course, there's tons more people like this. This was an important turning point. I would say in 1995, I was still old school. For sure, I was like 36 years old. I was still old school. We worked real hard. We outworked everybody, and we bragged about it. Nobody works as hard as we do. And then came this cat, Damon Lampley. He was 5'11", and he high jumped. He cleared over 7 foot 14 times his senior year. 7'2" was his best jump. And he did not have the success by doing a lot of hard work. By the way, he was also a 10.64 sprinter. He's a terrific athlete. And he started 28 games for our baseball team. That was, I believe, state runner-up in 95. 28 games he started in base. Now, he never missed a track meet, but he missed a lot of meets. He missed a lot of practices. Never missed a meet, missed a lot of practices. And it was almost like, no, it was like that missing practice helped him to perform. And I remember thinking to myself, is practice overrated? Boy, when coaches start asking themselves that, they're leaning in to being a feed the cats coach. Now, we're not saying that practice is unnecessary. We're saying that it's overrated and that maybe hard work is overrated. This guy was a spectacular athlete, and if he would have come to every practice, I guarantee you, he would have never jumped 7 foot one time. Not once. You say, well, what in the hell is this about? Okay, let's back up way back. Back when I was 24 years old, I was coaching a guy named Mark Biddle. Mark Biddle was a very good half miler. He ran probably a 155 and change, and he had a chance to compete for a state championship. But in early May, he developed this sore on his leg. At first, he thought it was a pulled muscle, and it was eventually found to be a brown recluse spider bite. And so it was cratering, and gosh, he missed like 9 days of training. 9 days. And here it was, he'd had like no workouts for 9 days, and the qualifying meet, the sectional, was coming up in like 2 days. And I'll be damned if he didn't go out and run a 2-second PR at sectional. A 2-second PR after missing 9 days of training. I remember when it first happened, he had tears in his eyes. I said, Coach, you can't believe how hard I've worked. How hard I've worked to have a chance to be a state champion. And it's all gone. I said, yeah, it's really sad. It's really just do the best you can, do the best you can. But I really thought he was screwed. And I'll be damned, 7 days later, he's state champ. He was state champ 7 days later. Big schools. He ran 153 low. State champ. And the reason why he was state champ is because he got bit by a spider. And he actually was able to get fresh and to get the rest that his body was craving. Because as we know, every athlete is a hard worker. Every athlete wants to do everything they can to win. Every athlete has been sold this bill of goods that it's the guy that works the hardest that wins. If we get second, that's because the guy that got first outworked us. If we're not starting, it's because the starters worked twice as hard as we did. So we need to start staying up later. We need to start working 8 hours a day. We need to start, like not sleeping and working all night long. And no. So you go the Lampley, who missed a bunch of time and performed well. Mark Biddle, same thing. Mark, by the way, passed away last year. A very sad thing. So those two things were huge. This is another huge thing. These 3 words. My son Alec, who's now a great coach, said, Dad, track sucks. That was when he told me that he was not going to run track in high school. And he could dunk a basketball as an 8th grader. So he was a very good athlete, a total cat. And I thought, gee, if a guy doesn't want to be in my program and he lives in my own house, what am I doing wrong? Can I fix it? And by the way, that's my son Quinn, my youngest son. You can barely see him to the right. This was when we were in Franklin. Quinn was about 11 years old, and Alec was actually a senior in high school here. But as an 8th grader is when he told me, Dad, track sucks. I just like the expression on my face here. I think this is after he got second in a race, and I was half pissed. But yeah, I said, I'm not going to coach anymore if my kids are miserable in my sport. Mithridates, and I'm teaching you some great history here. Mithridates the Sixth had a father that was a king that got poisoned by his wife, and so Mithridates took the throne, and he thought he would probably get poisoned too eventually. That's just what happened back in the medieval times. And so Mithridates as legend has it, went to the woods and consumed small amounts of every poison. And by doing so, he became immune to the poisons that would come later in his in his kingdom. And I see training kind of like this, that we want to consume small amounts of poison to become immune to injuries and to the stresses of performance. We do not want to be poison free. We do want to work, but we want very small amounts. We don't want to break our athletes. We don't want to kill our athletes. And things just work a lot better when you think like that. So this is the Hormesis curve. For every substance, small doses stimulate. That's the way I coach. Small doses of sprinting. Because moderate doses inhibit and large doses kill. I always think of tequila when I think about this. Like a shot of tequila might, send you on your way to a great evening of fun. 3 or 4 shots, not so much, like too much, and it kills you. And that hump in this curve, this Hormesis curve, my dad called that the point of diminishing returns. We don't know where that hump is for every athlete. For every athlete, the hump may be in a different place every day. So we don't want to err on the wrong side of the curve. We want to err on undercooking the steak. And this is why my shirt says, fuck the grind. The grind will always lead you to the right side of the curve. And that's where I spent my entire athletic career, the right side of the curve. Don Beebe, he doesn't know this, but Don Beebe was one of the fastest white guys to ever play NFL football. I think he ran a 4.3. He actually played basketball for my dad one year when he'd quit football. Strangely, quit football after his freshman year at Western Illinois. Came back home to Aurora University, where he now coaches, but he played basketball for my dad. Wasn't real good, but he was really fast. A couple years later, he played at Chadron State, but oh my God, he runs a 4.3 in the 40. And hey, that'll punch your ticket. So he had a great NFL career, and then he decided, this is around the year 1998, around 25 years ago. He gave me a call. He got my number from my dad and said, hey, I'd like to come and do a speed camp for you. I said, oh my God, an NFL player come to Harrisburg, Illinois, speed camp. Yeah, let's do this. He goes, yeah, I'll charge you $10,000. And we'll work with kids all morning on Saturday. And I was like, 10,000? He goes, yeah. I know it's a lot of money, but you can get banks to sponsor. And I said, Don, this is like Appalachia. Our banks are poor. There's no way. He calls me back a week later and says, hey, I'll do it for $5. And at that time, I was like, okay, Don Beebe's faster than I ever was as an athlete. But his brain and my brain are pretty similar probably. What does he know about speed that I don't know? And I was like, by God, I'm going to do my own speed camp. So I did my own speed camp that year. It was the summer of 1998, I believe. We went 2 weeks, Monday, Wednesday, Friday of both weeks. We timed 40s. We did speed drills. I learned how to be a sprint coach. But if it wasn't for Don Beebe's price for running a speed camp, I would have never become a speed coach maybe. It really started my journey towards who I am today. Paul Souza, it's one of those things. He's one of those dots in my life, like I think he's my first dot on that first slide. I went to a clinic around 1998, 99. This when it all started happening, Feed the Cats. And Paul Souza was a 7'4" high jumper at Penn State. He was a guy I'd never heard of. He coached at Wheaton College in Wheaton, Massachusetts, a Division III school, no scholarships. And he told me how they had run like a 304 or 305 4x4. He owned the room too. He was a great speaker, bouncy. I think he also really influenced me that so I would love to speak at a clinic someday. And he said, we ran, all of our guys were sub 48 in the 400, and we never ran more than a 200 in practice. We never ran a warm-up lap. We really, really microdosed everything. And I thought to myself, how great my life would have been as a track athlete if we would have had short practices where we'd maybe spike up and run 3 200s. And gee, if that could actually make us better. I mean, I was a half-baked sprinter because I was never taught to sprint. Not one time in high school was I ever timed in a short sprint. And I ran on school record 4x1 and 4x4 teams. So Paul Souza was one of those guys that gave me the courage to go towards a feed the cats model and to value speed more than hard work. So what I started doing, instead of training everybody to run the 400, that's what my coach used to do. We're going to train everybody to run the 400. Slow guys, they'll be moved up to the distance races. Fast guys, those genetic freaks, will be moved down to the shorter races because you can't coach speed. Well, I just rejected all that. I said, no, the cornerstone of our program is going to be the 40-yard dash. It's not going to be the 400 anymore. To hell with the 400. We don't even care if we're good at the mile relay anymore. I don't care if we're good at the 400. But then what's crazy is I found out that this was a great way to train for the 400. Shocked the hell out of me. We ran our best 4x4 times ever when we started training speed. Don't worry, coach, I'm going on a cruise. This was Marcellus Moore's answer to me his freshman year. He had a really good indoor season. He was a spectacular phenom at the age of 14. But he had a long history with an AAU coach in the area. And over spring break, I really wanted him to take time off. And I told him, I said, you're not going to be doing any crazy, like 2200s with your AAU coach, are you? And he just laughed. He said, no, coach, I'm going on a cruise. So he comes back from the cruise. We have one practice. It's like 10 days I didn't see him. Had one practice, and his first outdoor meet, this little 14-year-old ran 10:55 in the 100, 21:28 in the 200. And after the 200, he's breathing pretty hard. And he heard that one of our 400 guys, wasn't feeling good, was feeling sick or something. And he goes, Coach, you want me to run the 4x4? I go, yeah, sure. Jump on in there. And this is him just cruising a 52.2. Just a few minutes after finishing the 200. In Illinois, the 200 is right before the 4x4. So pretty impressive. And, once again, this kind of like, gee, is it possible that going on a cruise was better than 10 days of hard work? I'd say, yeah. Hard work is still good, especially if it's really game-like, race-like work. But, man, time off is really important too. This kind of shows, I think the Gauntlet taught me a lot of things. We started doing this in 2012, that's 11 years ago, where we'd line up all of our guys and we'd cheer for the sprinter. Marcel's here is running a 40-yard dash and we're handheld, and then we're timing the final 10 meters of the 40-yard dash and going to calculate miles per hour from that fly. But we're going to give him a lot of cheering and encouragement. And what I found was that 62% of my guys, even though we've been speed training for 2 months, that's all we did. All we care about, speed and explosion. For 2 months we'd trained, but yet 62% of my guys on the day we did Gauntlet ran the fastest time they'd ever run in their life. I was like, damn, I'm onto something. So we've done it like once or twice a year ever since. And I don't do a full study like I did on the first one, but it's always between 60 and 65% of our guys running a personal record time when we do Gauntlet. So this is what it looks like. Pretty important stuff. One of the things that's so important there, remember that as a track athlete myself and as a track coach until I was 40, that would have never happened. For one thing, we would have never timed a 40 ever, let alone a 10-meter fly. And we would never had that much fun. I mean, I was 40 until I finally evolved into a better coach. Most of us just coached the way we were coached. This is one of the shirts I sell, Rest, Recover, Sleep, that the chemical symbol in the middle is dopamine. Dopamine allows us to feel a reckless confidence, two of my favorite words, a reckless confidence. I think all great athletes, great coaches, great leaders kind of have a reckless confidence. And it also allows us to move our arms and legs faster. So how do we increase dopamine? Because we want it. First of all, sunshine. That's why 90% of the best sprinters in the country come from Georgia, Florida, Texas, and California. And it's not because they have the best sprint coaches there. I would argue the best sprint coaches are in the north. So what? No, well, sunshine's really important for sprinting. And if you're going to be a sprinter, you would like to be where you can soak up some sun. The other thing is sleep. Of course, we can get sleep anywhere, but the average high school teenager gets, like maybe 60% of the sleep they need. Championship sleep is 9 hours a night. The thing that's not on my shirt is accomplishments. And that's why I tell my team to start every day on a winning streak. Wake up, shower, 2 glasses of water, make your bed. I mean, that's 3 wins right there. And then the hope is that those 3 wins, that winning streak will continue, maybe through your first period class. And then if you win there, then it's going to, continue. So I love the idea of accomplishments. It doesn't have to, it's basically winning, but I don't like to say winning because we don't get to play many games where we win, and some track athletes will never win a race in their life. So it may be a PR in a race. It may be, your coach telling you look great, or any type of accomplishment, because I think we all know that winning begets winning, that if we could set kids up in a winning atmosphere, that somehow that makes them better. And the reason for that is because there's a magical chemical called dopamine that gets released when we win. So sunshine, live an outdoor life, sleep. By the way, when you're outdoors more, you sleep better. And by the way, if you're getting sunshine, getting sleep, you will probably have more accomplishments. So talking about the number of sprinters, California, Florida, Texas, Georgia, this was in 2016 when I did the study. I guess 83% of all sub 1080 sprinters in our country were from the Sunshine States. And hey, Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio are not bad track states. We're great in the distance races. We're great in the field events. We're just not as good in the sprints.